her profession or even her vocation.
Our featured speaker is an artist.
Being an artist is her identity and her stance in the world. She's also a follower of the Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, the founder of the arm of the engaged Buddhist movement that protested the Vietnam War and taught people how to remain grounded and engaged, but still cleaving to the principles of mindfulness. And because I happen to be the featured speaker's mother, I can also say that her preschool teachers always said, as did others throughout her childhood, she is wise beyond her years, and that continues to hold true. Please give a warm welcome to Halle Runzi-Lazarson.
Wow. That's great.
Every time I stand with you all, I really feel the heaviness of this moment, and particularly with today, with the images that have been coming out of Gaza in the last couple days. And the fact that Fridays at Fetterman's has been vigilant for 79 weeks while Palestinians continue to be starved and tortured and murdered. And sometimes you might feel powerless. And sometimes you might ask yourself, how can I smile when the richest country in the world is buying bullets for babies' heads instead of food for their stomachs? And sometimes you might wonder, why are we standing out here when it seems like no one is listening? And there's a lot of people who would like you to feel that way. The perpetrators of violence want us to feel powerless. They want us to feel afraid. They want us to be silent. They want us to give up. They know something that we might not always see ourselves, which is that inside of us we have something that when awakened is more powerful than money or bullets or bombs. They starve and torture and enslave and imprison and murder because they are afraid. The love in our hearts is an infinite resource. It does not know fear, it does not know fatigue, it does not know scarcity. I think one of the reasons they're afraid is also because we don't deal in the currency that they deal in. The currency of militarism and dehumanization and greed. We can hold all of the pain in the universe in our hearts and keep loving. And when I say love, I mean the spirit of peace and compassion and service that lives inside of us.
Yes.
And when you look at that spirit inside yourself, you'll see that it's unyielding. I think a lot of you have been working towards peace for decades. Some of you decades before I was here. Some of you I've known since childhood, or since birth, or since utero. And you have taught me what it means to work for peace. And it's occurring to me now that even those of you who I'm seeing for the first time today, you are also teaching me what it means to work for peace. And that the person who yells at us angrily from their car as they drive by is also teaching me how to work for peace. And these birds here are also teaching me how to work for peace. And I think after this genocide is over, we will continue to fight for peace. Because peace is not just a goal to achieve. Peace is who we are. Peace is something that we can embody. You know, we are the embodiment of peace. And I think we'll continue to embody peace in whatever form we take. We are instruments for light. And we are indispensable actors in the transformation for a more peaceful world. And we can bring everyone with us on that transformation. It's not about Palestinians versus Jews, Palestinians versus Israelis, or Jews versus Arabs, or right versus left, or the government versus its people. When we fight for peace, we are not talking about peace for some. When peace comes, it will belong to the victims of war, but it will also belong to the perpetrators of war. We have no enemies in the fight for peace. Our in-group is all of humanity. Woo! Yes. Woo! And I would even go further to say that our in-group is every manifestation of life in this universe.
Right. Yeah.
You know, you hear a lot of people say that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is complicated, and they need it to be complicated because in their mind they need all Israelis to be bad and all Palestinians to be good, or all Palestinians to be bad and all Israelis to be good. But it's not complicated. This is a case of fear and pain and violence and trauma generating more fear and pain and violence and trauma. And when we look at what the origin of this violence is, did it start October 7th? Or did it start 2007? Or 1947? Or 1939? Or 6 BC, or before that? What we're witnessing is a cycle. And we're seeing what happens when we let our wounds fester. The Nazi regime systematically marginalized and excluded Jews from every aspect of German life through discriminatory laws and propaganda and acts of violence. And we're seeing a cycle continue. I think if there were 6 million Palestinians to kill, at this moment Netanyahu would like to kill all 6 million of them. When we don't heal, we become the thing that we fear the most. Because to aid in the purposeful slaughter of an entire people is to cling to the suffering and pain inside you so tightly that you alienate yourself from your own humanity. And we can hold up a mirror to our leaders to remind them of their humanity. In fact, we have to recognize their humanity, because if we ask them to recognize the humanity of every person on this planet, but then we call them monsters, we're not living by our message. They are humans. They're humans acting from fear. And we also want their liberation. We have to ask ourselves, what are our conditions for love? It is easy to love babies. You hear people talk about women and children a lot when we condemn war, because somehow murdering men is less morally objectionable. But I recognize the humanity of the babies in Gaza, and I recognize the humanity of the women in Gaza, and I recognize the humanity of the men in Gaza, and I recognize the humanity of the Israeli people, and I recognize the humanity of Israeli soldiers, and I recognize the humanity of Hamas fighters, and I recognize the humanity of Netanyahu and Fetterman and Trump. And only from this place can I help others see their own humanity. Do not try to hold all of the pain and suffering in this world in your mind, in your thoughts, because you will very quickly be drowning in an ocean of suffering. Smile because you have love in your heart. Your smile is a contribution to peace. Trust that your heart can hold all this pain and all this suffering and transform that pain into the energy of compassion. So as we continue in this movement, let's say to all our fellow human beings, we see your humanity, we see your pain, we see your fear, we see your suffering, and we are fighting for your liberation. Let's invite all our fellow humans to walk together towards peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Halle.
Thanks.